Profligate, adjective, recklessly extravagant or wasteful in the use of resources. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Good evening. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, following the fortunes of Ipswich Town, up or down since 2015. My name is Craig Fimbo, and this is the live Flagship show. And joining me this evening for a look at the Lincoln match and beyond are David Diamond and return of the Mac, Joe Fairs. David, how are you? Did you enjoy Thesaurus Corner there? Did you see what I was doing?
I did indeed. When you're talking about profligate, I wasn't sure whether you're actually talking about the podcast, about us on the podcast, or the bigger thing of yesterday. But I assume you were talking about yesterday.
Recklessly extravagant, is that us, is it?
yeah, exactly.
That's our new strap line, isn't it? Reassuringly expensive, like the old Stella. Yeah. How you going? Are you all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good. Joe, welcome back. Long time no see. You been up to much?
Just having my sort of nose reconstructed and my face, only from the inside, unfortunately. So
you didn't do a very good job, mate.
Yeah. Hopefully, over time there'll be less of the sort of heavy breathing. So sort of like the old late night love, breathing down the microphone at the end of the.
Just lost half our viewers.
Does that mean Mrs. F is finally going to get a good night's sleep, Joe?
I haven't actually snored since apparently in over 3 weeks. So
yeah.
Well, I'll see how long that lasts, but it's not been the most pleasant couple of weeks. I thought it'd be over in a couple of days, but it's sort of really dragged on. Had to miss 2 games at Portman Road, which is not something I enjoy doing.
Heard of? Yeah.
And your shirt. Let's go for it. With the people who are watching live, we may as well.
Beauty.
Yeah. Talk of the shirt, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, this is Maritimo, who are the sort of main club side on Madeira. I went there last Christmas and picked it up over there, but that's a very Christmassy shirt, so hopefully I'll get everyone in the festive spirit.
Last Christmas, I picked up this shirt.
He's all over it. Excuse my ignorance, did Ronaldo ever turn out for them?
No, I think he's got like an ownership stake, or his brother does, on the other team in the island, which is a really sort of small up and coming team in the island. But these are the main team in the island. But like anything in Portugal, football is dominated by the big three: Benfica, Sporting, and Porto. Yeah. Those three have everything, and Maritimo. But they're the biggest team in Madeira. Nice little stadium up in the hills there. So I'd recommend anyone get across there.
Yeah,
travel
advice as well. My God, we're increasing your vocabulary, and now we're recommending small islands off the coast of Portugal to go for your holidays. And it can't be long until you'll be receiving online abuse because Josh Carson's jumping stats aren't as accurate as people want. The Football Manager must be out relatively soon.
Yeah, I think it's the 9th of November, I think, is the release date. So I think the database is closed effectively now. So I've had to make the last minute decisions on whether to have Sonny Aluko injured from the start of the season or not. But he's fit at the start of the season. That's the key one there. But yeah, I think everything should be okay in there. But we'll see. It's generally the sort of January update where you have more of a sort of players update on it, because a lot of it's just moving stuff about at the moment. So hopefully we're good. I'm sure anyone with a hint of Football Manager ability should be able to get us out of this league quite quickly. So
no pressure,
Kieran McKenna, are you listening?
Brilliant, fantastic stuff. Well, good evening to everyone who's joining us. I'm just going to go for a quick few shout outs to you guys who've jumped on. As ever, Charlie D, good evening to you. Nick missed the match, but he's going to be at Derby and Charlton. Hey to you, Nick. Gary, good evening to you. As ever, Michael, good morning from Brisbane. Dan, good evening to yourself. Tony, good evening to you. So we've got from the Telegram mob are already on board. Kirk, hello to you. AD, and as ever, my good friend David. So yeah, we'll do as ever. We'll go through the main match action, and then we welcome all of your comments. Any comments you got and questions afterwards, we'll head on to those after we've had a little chat about the news and the match, if that's okay. So please feel free to hold off if you want to. Otherwise, it might just get lost in the mists of time, as it were. So in terms of news this week, there hasn't been much going on. Angela Lansbury passed away, didn't she, on Monday? Sad news.
She right, yeah, tragic.
Yeah. And was she bedknobs and broomsticks? I think she was, wasn't she?
I think she was. Yeah,
one of those, wasn't she? Yeah.
She definitely was. Yeah, good, fairly good innings. I think 96. Did I see? I think she was. So she did well.
Obviously, this is one for the listeners, but I heard a story about how in the Mary Poppins remake, Julie Andrews, they wanted her to do that little part at the very end as like a flower seller. And they couldn't agree with her people because she wanted, I think in the end, wanted like 10 million to just do that last part at the end. And Angela Lansbury did it for 200 grand. Easy day's work. See you later.
Love that, Joe.
Fantastic. Well, there you can see what more. Well, I mean, interesting, varied
film trivia. There's everything going on tonight.
Another little bit was Richard Keogh was interviewed, I think, pre-match, and just mentioned that I think he's done his B license. He's moving on to his A license, and is basically said it would be stupid of me not to have one eye in the future. The environment I'm in now is perfect for me to learn. I've learned so much these past 2 or 3 months from the manager, the coaching staff, and everyone at the club. It'd be interesting to see what transpires on that front, won't it, Dave? Whether, I suppose we were actually chatting about this up where we sat on Saturdays, whether people like Keogh and Aluko, by virtue of us hopefully getting promoted, whether that actually lessens the chance of them getting a playing contract, but maybe
pathway. Maybe so. I think that you both read. They're both. McKenna's come out and said that they're both really good influences around the team, around the club, and especially around the young players as well. So if we go up, you wouldn't think there'd be contracts for them. So that's a possibility. But yeah, it's good to hear that. So it's 2 such experienced players, especially Keogh, coming out and saying that he's so impressed with the coaching, and he's learning new stuff at the ripe old age of 36 or whatever.
Yeah, because they're also on Radio Suffolk on the Thursday night Sports Social. There was quite a long interview with Lee Grant on that, and Lee Grant was sort of extolling Richard Keogh's virtues about how good he is around the place, how he'll make a great coach when he gets to it. And obviously they're close friends and they live together, actually. He sort of, Keogh had said previously on that Sunday stroll. But yeah, they're living together locally. But so he was sort of that side. So it does seem like, as we all thought at the time of the signing, really, that Keogh's coming down here with one eye on coaching, getting back closer to home, closer to the club he wants to sort of be at.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Just a few more hellos. Mullet, good evening to you. Gary, good evening to yourself. Maz has gone very early with the McKenna out shout. So, yeah, we'll see about that, Maz. Please feel free to send some abuse Maz's way. The instigator of possibly the longest Telegram discussion of all time this afternoon, Jules here, who was had started a discussion about the atmosphere around Portman Road, and about 240 messages later, it was still ongoing when I last checked. So good evening to you, Jules, and finally, good evening to Ed. And also, Joe Pablo was back in town this week and had a tear-jerking 10-minute video with Matt Holland as they strolled around the training ground and bits and pieces like that. It was fantastic, wasn't it, that little video?
Yeah, great to see, wasn't he? He's talking about how he sort of hasn't been here since he left, really. Was it like 11 years since he was last here? And I'd say just a fantastic sort of player, wasn't he, for the club? And when you look at his career as well, it really was just Ipswich's career, wasn't it? It's sort of like a few little spells here, popped to like Malaga and had sort of a bit of time there, but really Ipswich was the only place he ever found his home. And I remember reading the sort of Graham Hunter Barcelona book, and he's talking about the sort of Spanish youth team and Pablo in that sort of in the world sort of under 20 winning side with Xavi and players like that alongside him, and was obviously very highly rated. We signed him on a free transfer when we just finished 5th in the Premier League, and he just sort of embarrassing the under 21s there, and came across and was just technically such a good player. And he really, really sort of bought into Ipswich in the end, stayed that way, and sort of just great to see him back, really, and hopefully great for the club to embrace it as well. Matt Holland seems to be getting quite heavily involved in the way that sort of Simon Milton was previously on all that side there. So I know he's on the trust, and it does really feel like the old players, maybe the more recent old players, rather than just the Johnny Walks, that sort of era of player, the sort of 90s, 2000s players are being sort of use more. And that is a Pablo match-worn shirt, third shirt from a Crystal Palace game, and that's also a Matt Holland match-worn shirt there. So
was it the Crystal Palace 4-3 game? Was it?
No, it's a Crystal Palace game. I think we might have even lost it the year after.
Okay. Yeah,
or year before.
Nice,
sorry.
Nice though.
Well, I'm glad I could be of service, so Joe could point out what shirts he's got on.
More of his shirt collection.
What shirts he's got on his wall. Cool. Right. Let's unfortunately let's go on to Saturday's match. What I'll do is I pop up the lineups from the match. So on the back of 3 wins in 8 days, as it was last week, and in front of pretty much 27,000 people.
Absurd.
So
Kieran McKenna made 4 changes to the starting Morecambe 11, I think it was. So Burns came in, Wolfenden came in, Ladapo and Harness, replacing Edwards, Keogh, John Jules and Jackson. Anything you'd have done differently here, Joe? Or can anyone feel hard done by or after Morecambe? Or is this pretty much now our home 11?
I think in the Telegram chat there was sort of a broad consensus that this is our strongest 11, really, isn't it? Especially for home games. And so I'm still not quite sure between John Jules and Ladapo as a 9. But I think Ladapo had played well in the previous home game, hadn't he? And John Jules come on and scored. But yeah, that's probably the only question mark for me I've got at the moment. But no, I think it's our strongest 11. Just quickly on SofaScore, Lee Evans getting a 9.1 out of 10 yesterday. I don't. How?
Yeah. To be fair, he probably. We'll go through it, but I think of all of our players, I think him and Wolfenden were the standout.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I thought he played well, but 9.1 just sticks out like a sore thumb there, doesn't it?
Yeah, you'd thought somewhere in the 8s maybe. Yeah.
And in terms of Lincoln, I'll quickly Rushworth through their starting 11. Goalkeeper Carl Rushworth. Oh, actually, before we do, as sure as eggs is eggs, Teddy Bishop was absent with a hamstring injury. But they did Rushworth in goal, O'Connor, Jackson and Paul, their captain, were normally the centre halves in front of those. Virtue Thick or Tick and Sanders, and their wing backs, quite deep wing backs as it turned out, are Ruffin and Ioma. Ben House through the middle with one of your relatives, Dave.
Sadly not spelt differently, but yeah, I'll take it.
Diamond in the rough and Mandri Oyoy.
That is their left side, isn't it? Diamond in the roughen.
Yeah, it is Diamond in the roughen, of course, yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And firstly, there was, as the players came out, there was quite an impressive TIFO display, wasn't there, by the Blue Action guys? That's very, very impressive, the way they've managed to...
No, it really was.
Top slice of the club badge there. It's good as the players come out.
Mm-hmm.
And then a minute's applause for the sad news, obviously, of John Duncan's passing. I paid tribute to him last week, last Sunday, Dave, but you'd have been slightly more cognizant than a 12-year-old me. I'd have thought.
Yeah, I was. No, sad, and clearly, all the tributes that have sort of come in, and you hear just from the world of football is really well thought of, I think, on the football managers, football coaches panel, whatever he was on, but really well thought of. And yeah, I mean, as you probably said last week, what a difficult job he had picking up the pieces after, Bobby Ferguson, after Bobby Ferguson's years in charge and relegation from the old First Division, and then, failing to get up that very first season. So Duncan came in and replaced Bobby Ferguson after 86-87 season, I think. And yeah, lasted 2 seasons, and it was, I've got to say, funny enough, we spoke about this yesterday. I'm sure, again, you guys, I know you spoke about it last week. Little nuggets aside during that period, obviously the Daly and Atkinson Middlesbrough game, which sticks out. I think there was a Man United FA Cup tie in there somewhere, but yeah, largely forgettable, wasn't it? But no, a real gentleman, I think, and really well thought of. I know Simon Milton spoke well of him. I think he gave Milton his debut. So yeah, he spoke really well. But yeah, very sad news at a relatively young age, which is 72, 73, I think. So yeah, very, very sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was also very well supported by the Lincoln fans as well.
Brilliant. Really good. Yeah, got to say that. Yeah.
So moving on to the match, for the first 20 minutes or so, nothing much happened at all, did it, Dave? I think when you I'm dropping cricket into the conversation here. When you talk about cricket innings and they're chanceless, that's a good thing. A chanceless century is a good thing. A chanceless first quarter of a football match isn't necessarily so.
No, we weren't on it, were we? We didn't start well. I didn't think. We looked a bit sluggish and weren't really picking up those second balls as well as we usually do. I think we said on the Telegram group and right through the game, Lincoln were really quite well organised, as Cambridge, to be fair, were the other week, but I think a bit more compact as well. So our right side wasn't great yesterday. Certainly not first half, but Danasi and Burns, I felt probably collectively had their worst games of the season, which didn't help matters. But Morsey didn't really have a great first half, which again is really unusual. And we just struggled really to get in the game, get any sort of good possession in and around their box. Up to the 4th minute anyway.
Yeah. What are the reasons behind that then, Joe? Because there was nothing. Morsey wasn't like getting on the ball and scuttling forward like he does sometimes. He wasn't like breaking past any tackles.
Not
He
first
just seemed
half.
to be, it just seemed to be quite placid, really.
Yeah.
No, it was very passive, wasn't it? I think there was a word a few people used, and it seemed like even when we did something well, so there'd be like a little triangle and we'd take a man out of the play, so we'd sort of break a line, rather than sort of try and sort of progress that and utilise that situation we'd made. We then would just knock it back and sort of go back to square one, and it felt like they really did a job on us on our right hand side. Their left hand side, I thought the left back Ruffin did really well up against Burns all game. Quick, matched him sort of stride for stride when he was trying to get ahead of him, strong in the tackle, but they sort of had 4 or 5 men on that side. And it seemed like, I know sometimes they talk about players on the pitch needing to sort of solve their own problems sometimes, and it didn't feel like we were doing that. It felt like we were trying to sort of work to these patterns of play that we wanted and work to these plans. And like Davis was getting quite a lot of joy down the left-hand side against Ioma, who was pushing on. He was getting in behind him every time sort of the ball went out there, and Edmondson was overlapping around him, and we were much more dangerous on that side. But yet we really kept trying to force the ball into that right-hand side. And I say Danasin probably had his worst game I've seen him have, and it wasn't a terrible game by any stretch of the imagination. He was still of a decent level, but he had a bad game. Connor Chaplin just nothing was really coming off, and Wes Burns, again, when he did get in, he didn't really make anything happen with it. And those three are so important, and they've normally got such a good understanding the partnership. But we just kept trying to force a ball there with some sort of straight balls over the top, bended balls, balls that just weren't ever coming off. And I know it just seemed a bit out of ideas, didn't we?
They were quite deep as well, right from the start. They sort of
really
defended quite deep, so there really wasn't a lot of space behind them. And they were, like I said, they were deep and quite tight and compact. So, that's good. Look, we'll get to their goal, but overall, I thought that they probably got what they deserved. They defended absolutely, like as Cammy would say, like beavers, didn't they? Really.
Yeah. Well, we were on top and controlling things, but as you guys say, we weren't creating anything of note, were we? But when you are on top, Joe, and you're the best in the league at restricting opponents from having attempts on your goal from open play, you don't really want to be conceding from the odd set piece that you do give away, do you?
No, and even conceding the set piece was pretty bad, wasn't it? We'd sort of, they'd had a corner, we'd cleared it, and then someone had been pulled back, and Chaplin sort of tries to take this free kick really quickly, doesn't he, and hammers it across the pitch, but it just gets intercepted on the way, and he's trying to get it going, and then all of a sudden they've got another corner, it comes across, and who is it that does the first header? Is it their 5? Is it Jackson?
I think it might have been their captain. I think it's
Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, but it loops really high up, and as you see on that picture, you're well covered in the box, but you've got
some ball watching going on there.
Walton had sort of been in the goal, hadn't he? He'd come out of the goal, and I'd say for me, from the other end, because obviously you can't see exactly what's happening, you think, well, the ball's been up there ages, the keeper's just got to come and do something with that. It was up there for so long, wasn't it? But sort of from there, but then if you see it from there, when the headers won, Danasian sort of drifted off that man at the back post, hasn't he?
And looking at the still there, it's the guy. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders, and it's I think O'Connor or someone. I think O'Connor's the guy that actually wins it there. He's in front of Walton there, and sort of with a back header. We are so static and flat there. I think that's Evans near him. Evans doesn't put in a challenge there, and it's
But when
Yeah,
you look
bit
at the
of a- bit of
two
a
men
shit
with
show.
Evans and
Bit of
I
a
don't know,
shit show.
Ladapo there, it's 6 players within
Yeah, it's
4
not
yards
great.
where that ball's fallen, and
Not great.
no one puts in a great challenge, does it?
No, it's a bit lucky. Let's face it. 9 times out of 10, he never keeps that ball in play, and he heads it up in the air, and the ball drifts out behind. But it's an awkward one because it hangs there. But we should deal with that better.
I think the ironic cheers from the North Stand were still echoing around the stadium, weren't they, from
Yeah.
that first initial
That
header,
header, which
as it was
looks like
put
it's
into the back of the
balloon.
net.
Yeah.
It looks like it's ballooning behind. That's right. Yeah.
Like I said, there's a comment about Walton there, but again, you don't really see what happens. But when the ball loops up, Walton ends up right in the back of the net, doesn't he? And he sort of has to come out there. And sort of going forward to the second half, when they hit the post as well, Walton ends up sort of tripping over. And I don't know whether there was extra pressure from the Lincoln players. I've not had a chance to watch those back sort of in detail.
Yeah. Well, there's a few comments here, as you say, about Walton, and also such bad marking. As you say, Dave, look, it's not a difficult spot the ball competition because every single player is looking
and
at it.
everyone's just it's static, isn't it? It's such a weird thing because the ball, Jim or whoever just said it, the ball does go about 30 feet in the air, doesn't it? And they all look, it's a really odd one. But he's dead right. They win three headers to score. He's right. Yeah.
Are we in the territory, Dave, of our first C word of the season there in regards to the
No,
defending?
I don't think so. Not quite. I don't think it's deserving of that yet, Craig. No, not
Okay,
really. No, it was pretty ropey and poor, but a little unlucky. Yeah, as you say, 9 times out of 10, he gets his head to that ball, and that ball just drifts behind. But yeah, we're just static and flat-footed. And Joe pointed out, Danassian's probably the worst of all because he just comes right off the man, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the problem we've got now is Lincoln have got something to hold on to, and by God, they held on to it, didn't they?
It's incredible, yeah.
So for the rest of the half, basically, there was a good ping from Wolfen, wasn't there? Out to the left to Davis, who sort of took it in his stride,
superb,
pulled it back to Chaplin. As
that was the big chance. I thought that was probably our best chance, really.
Ladapo sort of getting each other's way.
Gets in the way, yeah. That'd have been right in front of you, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a move we've done dozens of times before. It was just perfect, wasn't it? It was the ball out wide, a quick ball back, cut back.
Tucks those in the corner, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Evans had a long shot tipped wide from about 20 yards, and then had a free kick
in a decent position.
A free kick straight at the keeper, didn't he, as well? But the first half ends with stats and the state of the game, which weren't a million miles away from Morecambe last week, in that we'd had 70% possession. The opposition had had one shot, and we're losing 1-0.
Yeah.
And you could tell McKenna wasn't happy with the first half because all the fans, everyone around me, everyone I spoke to said, it's so passive, we just think it's so slow. And with sort of probably about 3 or 4 minutes of the halftime break left, the players were out there doing with John Ashton and Lee Grant, doing a real high intensity passing, heading workout. And they were out there for a good 2 or 3 minutes before Lincoln came out to join them. So it was obvious that McKenna wanted them to sort of get out there and get on it a bit more. And in fairness, we were in the second half, weren't we? We were more on it. We were faster, but it was more for me. It was more the sort of taking an extra touch in sort of key areas, making the wrong decisions, as opposed to actually the general play to get you into the decent positions.
Yeah, well, I say that at Morecambe we did sort of come out from the whistle all guns blazing, but it still took us 5 or 6 minutes to get going in the second half this time. And as you say, Joe, there's people just taking more touches than they needed to. There was a lot of misplaced passes in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half, but then we just started to eke our way into it. But again, it was shots. I think Chaplin had a shot. Harness was brought down. The ball fell to him, and he hit a shoot. Harness had a chance just on the left, didn't he? He blazed it over on the angle, didn't he?
Yeah.
About 8 yards out.
And how they didn't make it 2-0, I don't know really. That's incredible, isn't it? From the corner.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, you had a good view of that, Joe. So it hits the inside of the post, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, Danassian and sort of Walton just get lost, and all of a sudden he's just totally free at the back post and sort of heads it down. It looks like it hits the post and almost bounces up and hits the bar. It's that sort of high. It doesn't go all the way up there, but yeah, that was poor marking there, and that could have been sort of game over at that point, really. But I said we keep going, and we keep going, and we keep getting the ball in the box. The amount of, I don't know, when you talk about things like box entries, touches in the opposition boxes and things like that, which are all key metrics for playing well. We must have been really high on that, but we just took we took the extra touches, we were saying there too many times, wrong decisions. And so we end up with 33 shots. We have 20 shots in the box. And I don't know the exact breakdown of it, but 16 of our 33 shots were blocked. And I'd imagine a high percentage of those 20 shots in the box, probably 13 of them were blocked. And they're blocked because Lincoln defended heroically. They were excellent. They were putting their bodies on the line and really compact, really well positioned, and did brilliantly. But also, we gave them a chance to. There was one, I think, when Edwards comes on and he pulls it back to Harness. It looks like he's sitting up there ready to hit it from the penalty spot, and he takes a touch, and then the shot's blocked. And Edwards breaks into the box, beats another man, and rather than have a shot, tries to beat that third man and gets a shot blocked. And it just seemed there. And then when, like I said, there's a comment there about how the first touch is massive in the box. When one of our front players does have an excellent first touch in the box, and it's John Jules, and he drops his shoulder, creates a real couple of yards of space on his left foot. He blazes the ball over the bar when he's really done brilliantly to open the chance up. He then doesn't have the composure to finish.
I think that was offside. I think he was fortunate.
He did put one over that was offside.
Oh, okay,
when he first came on. But the other one was sort of from the right hand side of the box. He sort of dropped his shoulder.
He drops his shoulder and tries to go far corner.
Showed that touch that you needed in that tight space,
you're right,
but then put it over the bar.
Well, he and Edwards had come on 66 minutes for Ladapo and Chaplin, and there's been a few comments and questions about Ladapo, so we'll save those for a little bit.
Davis and Edwards looked good when Edwards came on. They looked good down that.
There's a question here from Michael in regards to that. Is that we must have known how they were going to play. Maybe Edwards should have been on from the start, or if not that, then potentially coming on earlier than 66 minutes, wherever it was.
Normally the players make a big difference when they come on, but maybe, I don't know, Lincoln, they didn't seem to tire like other teams do.
They really didn't.
Whether it's because they're fitter, or whether it's just was that they weren't needing to work as hard because they were playing a lot deeper than other teams do. So there wasn't any press of any note at all, was there? It was just sitting deep, and they didn't really tire, and the fresh legs coming on. I guess being 1-0 up makes a big difference on that, as opposed to being 0-0, doesn't it? That you don't have to go for anything.
They were blocks, considering you said how many sort of efforts we had around the box. I mean, their keeper, all the saves their keeper made were straightforward saves, weren't they? I can't remember him making
one decent
any
one down to his right, wasn't there? But still one you'd expect him to make.
Yeah, one from Morsey, which was at that height sort of thing.
Yeah,
and it was just, I think it was just, you put it down, and the guys on the EFL, Sam Parkin said, didn't you, you just put it down to one of those days, and, good opportunity to put it right before the weekend this Friday, isn't it?
Yeah. But like I say, you look at the stats, 76% possession, 33 shots on goal, and they had 3. But I didn't end the game thinking, I can't believe we've lost that, if that makes sense. It didn't feel like a game where sometimes when you have 33 shots, the keeper's pulled off 4 incredible saves, you've hit the post, you've done this. It didn't feel like.
No, you're right.
It didn't feel like we were. If we'd have scored early in the second half, I'm sure we'd have been all right. But even at the end, it didn't feel like there's still 2 goals in this for us. It felt like if we get one, we're going to be lucky to get one.
And I still say our final ball wasn't great from wide areas either. I don't want to criticise Jackson, but I don't know. Sometimes I just think his decision making isn't great. And I saw someone, I didn't pick it out, but someone I think on a Telegram, or might have been on TWTD on the group, said that there was one occasion where Jackson got the ball down that wide left, got to the line, had a look where to put it, and then John Jules stopped. Instead of John Jules carrying on, he sort of stopped, and again almost got caught between 2 stools, as often happens,
We didn't have enough men in the box though, did we?
Probably not.
I think that's the problem. Like you've got, but like. You need 4 or 5 men in there to aim at, don't you? And it didn't seem like your Chaplin and your Harnesses were busting a gut to get in the box or making positions in there. So when Jackson's playing in there, you've got 2 players to aim at and 7 defenders in there, and you just got to flash it in there and hope that someone gets on the end of it. But I thought Jackson did in his 10 minutes. I thought he did more than most of the other attacking players did. But we just weren't getting enough bodies in the box at that point.
Yeah, well, so Jackson came on 79. Him and Vincent Young came on for Burns and Denassi. And as you said, Dave, for once, in recent memory, living memory, that Burns and Danassian partnership just did not click at all. Danassian was poor from the very start, wasn't he?
As Gary said there, I think they really did their homework on us, didn't they? Did a bit of a job on us, but I don't think the two of them. Yeah, it was obviously partly due to that, but I just think they just didn't look quite at it yesterday. Their touch wasn't great. Danassian's touch, which is usually very good, and Burns just not slightly, just not on it quite on it yesterday. Yeah,
but as you said, Joe, Jackson made a difference. He did in his 10 minutes more than Burns had done. And Burns isn't a tricky, dribbly, take it round a player winger. He's a knock it past him, sprint to the line, cut it back, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is what Jackson's
fullback
exactly.
play.
All
Fullback well against
Jackson
him.
wanted to do was just put me in behind. He just kept making that run in behind to the byline and was there for the little inside balls. And there's not really much more he can do from out there. And he just needed somebody to bust a gut and to make a chance and try and get on there.
Yeah, that's right. It's not poor crosses, it's just poor anticipation. Or as you say, Dave, it's making that run and stopping. Well, keep going and let the guy behind you make the run to the penalty spot.
H just said, gamble. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, as I say, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Murder She Wrote. All she wrote. We sort of huffed and puffed a little bit, didn't we? But didn't create anything of any great note. As you say, Joe, it finished with, so despite 76% possession and 33 shots, albeit only 3 of them were actually on target, an XG of what was over 2 in the end. Just for those guys who are watching, you can see that apart from the Lincoln goal and potentially the corner you were talking about there, Dave, there's very little from Lincoln, because we do stop teams from creating, don't we? But
yeah, we do.
And you can see as well, our rise is incremental, isn't it? It's very small incremental rise. There's no huge leaps in terms of big chances being
until
created.
they score, though, is there? Look,
it's weight of chances rather than significant chances, if you know what I mean. Unfortunately, but we can't afford too many games whereby you're almost 3 times as high XG as the opposition and end up losing, unfortunately. So, as it transpires, it was our first home league defeat of the season, failing to score for the first time in the league this season. And the post-match comments by Kieran McKenna were similar to what we said, really, regarding the second half. He says that we missed chances that we shouldn't miss, but I think he was more concerned about the start of the game. We didn't start the game how we wanted to start it. The opposition are waiting for that one set play, and if you don't defend that set play well enough, you give them a cheap goal, and then it makes it difficult. A difficult challenge, much, much, much more difficult again, which exactly turned out to be, didn't it? And I'm always sorry, Dave, I'm always quite impressed by these guys who have to come out. And it's the first time I've seen McKenna get animated on the sidelines. He slung his water bottle down at some point for one decision that was, not given or made against us. And to have to turn around and come out and
also I think the point we make, sometimes in these games we moan and bitch about the opposition and sort of we call them general shithousery. But to be fair, I really don't think there was too much from them at all yesterday.
No, and I've said it before. What the way you stop it is by going in the lead, isn't it? And then it simply doesn't happen. If you haven't got the nous to break a team down.
There are some ridiculous ones, like when the ref does need more of a grip on it, like when someone's just laying on the floor and saying, I've got cramp, and the other team have got a throw. And the ref just say, look, either you get the physio on now, or they're just going to take the throw in now, and I'm just going to wait play on, so I'll get up and play or not. That's happened in the Liverpool-Man City game. Like Jota goes down, passing the ball to someone, and Man City on the attack in the 96th minute, and Liverpool is shouting him to kick the ball off the pitch because someone's gone down under no pressure with cramp. It's like, no, it's just there needs to be, I don't know, there needs to be more done around sort of the time wasting and the goalie just laying down on the floor so they can have a team talk and refresh.
I thought the ref was okay yesterday, didn't you? Thought the ref was all right.
Generally okay, yeah.
One yellow, was Evans picked up a yellow, did he?
That was neatest one, wasn't it?
Yeah, silly one. But
it would be nice to know, actually, because there was a big thing, wasn't there, a few years ago now, quite a few years ago, in terms of the goalkeeper's got 6 seconds to release the ball, and the crowd used to count down or count up 6 seconds, which they still do, but it doesn't mean anything because that's not a thing anymore. But it would be nice, I think, for a referee or someone to come out and say, look,
that was,
the goalkeeper is allowed to hold onto the ball for 20 seconds, whatever it happens to be, just so everyone knows where they're at.
The 6-second rule was in the old days when the keeper invariably 99 times out of 100 used to kick from their hands, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which seldom doesn't happen now.
No, it doesn't. Walton actually had similar tone to McKenna after the match. First period of any game is massive, he said, starting games well, etc., etc. So I think it's pretty much agreed that we didn't start particularly well. We gave away a soft set piece and then struggled from then on, unfortunately. I suppose and it's been said before, actually, I can't think which match it was that we said it about, is that everything's planned to the nth degree. There's no room for any chaos, is there, in our system at the moment? Although we haven't really got a player that can cause much chaos, with Hadney being injured, but we just still stick to the plan regardless of match situations. And that was one of the comments post-match. Sorry, David, BBC Suffolk, one of the callers said, are we overcoached? And it got sort of scoffed at by Graham Mack, I think. But I think it probably wasn't the right term to use. But I think it's just giving players a little bit of leeway to sling it in the area and hope it bounces off of someone's backside.
But I'm sure the players do have leeway, but you've got to have that confidence to make your own on-pitch decisions, don't you? As opposed to just trying to follow. If the plan's not working, then you need to sort of try and do different things to move the ball about quicker. Move the ball faster is generally what helps. And I say there's patterns of play down both sides of the pitch, and if you can't get the ball down to Wes Burns, you can't keep trying to force it to him. Yeah, he's a brilliant player and he's been brilliant for us for the last 15 months, but he was getting no joy yesterday and he was being marked out of the game. They had all the men over there, and when he was getting the ball, he was struggling. I think Charlie Dees just posted a comment about missing Sonny Aluko yesterday, or Shawnee Aluko, and I think that was a game yesterday. I saw Ed actually, the Telegram in Tesco's, and I was saying that about Aluko or a Selena, a player that has just got ice in their veins when they get the ball in the final third of the game, when they've got 9 men in between them and the goal, and they have got the touch. They will take the time. They will try and pick a pass out. Where sometimes Chaplin and Harness are a little bit frantic, aren't they? And they're players that make things happen. But
you're right. It's just someone to put their foot on the ball and make that right decision.
Yeah, well, so Norman said similarly. Yeah, did we miss Celine yesterday? But I suppose he's more of a dribbler with the ball, similar to what Edwards was. We were a bit surprised where we were that Edwards didn't come earlier, because if they're sitting back and the whole match is condensed into you've got 20 players condensed into a 30-yard section of the pitch.
Try and win a penalty or something like that, don't you?
You're not passing it through them, are you? There's no space to run behind them. You're not going to pass it through them. Just try and dribble around someone. Get a penalty.
As I said, Edwards certainly I thought he made another really good impact on the game yesterday.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's doing well, actually. He's playing well last few weeks, isn't he? So please, by all means, get some more questions in for the guys in the comments. We'll just quickly go through the results and bits and pieces from yesterday, bearing in mind that Charlton and Portsmouth are playing tomorrow evening. Is that on Sky? Is it? Oh, all right. Lovely stuff. So, yes, Accrington lost 3-0 at home to Derby. Difficult place to go, Accrington, sometimes. Bolton Barnsley.
That was a misnomer, though, wasn't it? There was 2 missed penalties. 2 missed penalties at 1-0, wasn't it, Joe?
Was it 1-0? He missed 2 penalties.
I think they 1-0 down.
He missed
in 2 minutes.
And then Derby scored a minute later.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a... And then they scored their third on about the 98. So it was a little bit of a... It's a 3-0 away win, for God's sake. But, yeah, there's a story there.
You're saying about that. Did you, slightly off topic, did you watch the Sheffield United highlight?
Yeah.
Bloody Nora, what a game that was.
That was bonkers, wasn't it?
That was almost the Battle of Bramall Lane again, revisited.
all over again, yeah.
That one. Yes, Bolton Barnsley 0-0. Burton 1-1 with Morecambe. Another good result for Sheffield Wednesday away at Cambridge 2-0. Bristol Rovers.
4-0
hopefully
at half time.
Yeah, doing what we will be doing to Cheltenham in about a month's time, which just so happens to be the same night as the same day of the evening of the Blue Monday live show, which
And it's
is obviously-
live.
It's live.
So please, Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk for your tickets for the Blue Monday live show, which will be after the Cheltenham game on the 12th of November. Exeter lost 4-2. Oxford has suddenly found their shooting boots.
Did you see what player of the year yesterday? What happened to the player
No,
of the
mate,
year?
no, I haven't seen any of the highlights.
Dragged at half time.
Hooked at half time, 3-0 down.
Probably because has he already got the award in the bag? So they just want to.
It might be. It might well be. Yeah. Not. I don't think it's going quite so well for him again.
Oh dear, poor old fella.
No. Oh dear.
Shrewsbury beat Fleetwood. Good result for Shrewsbury.
They're doing well.
Fleetwood. Whereas Milton Keynes aren't doing particularly well, Dave.
No. Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't know if you saw the highlights of this one, the kamikaze stuff again from the back. Oh no, real sort of head in your hand stuff, really. Yeah, and obviously Plymouth, the team in quite good form,
Yeah,
took full
ridiculous.
advantage. Yeah,
Well,
first one was a horrible goal as well. Keeper just fumbles one from Whittaker, just absolutely throws it in, and it sort of dribbles over the line. Yeah, horrible all round. Yeah, you think he's going to be coming under some pressure soon, don't you, Liam Manning?
Yeah, 100%. And Ellis Harrison scored again for Port Vale. I think it might have been a pen, but he scored again for those guys. He must be getting up to the top of the goal scoring
or something like that, isn't he?
Yeah. And finally, Wickham beat Portsmouth. Peterborough. Were they winning Peterborough? They 1-0 up.
I don't remember that one.
No, anyway. But they just can't get going, can they?
No,
they just cannot get going.
No, and here's the table for those guys who are watching. We're still hanging on to second position, albeit Portsmouth. I say they've got 3 games in hand in the second week of October, which is something to behold in itself. But yeah, if Plymouth are starting to go away, I appreciate it's only at Milton Keynes, but if they're starting to go away and winning 4-1, then their home record's going to look after itself, isn't it, at the top there?
You think so? See, just notice that Charlton unbeaten at home. There you go. Tomorrow night, Portsmouth go there.
I guess it's just the way it looks at the moment is that Plymouth, Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday are just streets ahead, and it's just whether Portsmouth can hang on to our coattails to join the automatic race, doesn't it? Because if you look, 7-point gap or 8 points between us and Peterborough at the moment. Well, we're going to have to go on a very bad run of form and then on a very good run of form for 6-7 weeks for that to get turned over, aren't we, really?
Yeah, as we know. Yeah. Plymouth really are home park bullies, aren't they? Look at that. So. Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff. So in terms of what have we got? Oh, actually, there's another thing. Do you see the rumour today about Schumacher to West Brom? There was something
6-4 favourite.
Is he really?
Apparently, according to Sky.
Wowzers.
One of them I saw earlier. Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but that would obviously be... Well, Ryan Lowe left last year, and they didn't seem to stop in their tracks. But
who's the assistant? Who's the assistant to the assistant? Then, if they managed to get Ryan Lowe's assistant in,
but think Plymouth do seem the most disruptible team up there. If you look at us, Sheffield Wednesday, and Plymouth,
like loan players, and
they've got key players on loan who might be recalled by their parent clubs. They've got a manager who's, if he's in demand, is probably going to be harder to keep there as opposed to sort of McKenna and Darren Moore at us and there. So you do just sort of not hope, but their season is disrupted and allows us and Sheffield Wednesday to fight it out for the title rather than 3 of us fight it out for the top 2. Because you'd rather lose out and come second than lose out and come third, wouldn't you?
You think someone like Deitch would be a good fit for West Brom, wouldn't he? Someone like him.
They've got any money. I think they're really, really poor at the moment.
Point.
So
yeah.
But it is interesting if the manager of Plymouth's being touted with West Brom, then where's the manager of Ipswich going to be touted for? I suppose you got to think.
Yeah, he was. Let's hope his stock has dwindled a bit after yesterday.
One loss.
I think. One loss. Yeah. No, I think he was down. I think he was obviously mentioned, but no, he was fairly well down, like 25-1 or something like that. He was down in the list of almost.
They couldn't afford to get him from us. West Brom.
You're
probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting. They were talking again on Suffolk yesterday about at what point was it on Suffolk? I think it was on Suffolk. At what point does McKenna get given a new contract? You know, excuse me, they looked after Wolf and they looked after Burns, and after a season of doing well, they got given an extension to their contracts. At what point do you start tying McKenna down to a 14-year contract? Interesting to see. Right, so quickly, other news. Elkan Baggott scored his first domestic goal for Gillingham. It was a hell of a header as well, thumping header.
Wasn't it? I missed this. Someone said there was a really glaring miss in that game, like a proper comedy miss. Did you see it, Joe?
Yeah, like someone's sort of hammered a shot across goal, and he's on the line, cashed it, and just sort of managed to lift it over the bar from within a couple of yards. He lifts it over the bar.
Harewood-esque.
What else we've got? Just a couple of quick plugs before we get onto the questions. Obviously, this week's a bit different with the game being on Friday evening, so there's no live Q&A Wednesday, but Rich and Seb are doing a live pre-match on Thursday evening. So join the guys on Thursday evening rather than Friday for a live pre-match for the Friday match. And we're back again. 3 people will be back again next Sunday to go through the Derby game. That will still be on the Sunday. Obviously, the Ian Westlake interview is still out there from Rich and Phil, which was fantastic. Over an hour of various tales from his journey from Clacton to swimming to Ipswich to Leeds to Cheltenham to back to the non-league in Suffolk. It was a good 75 minutes of chat, wasn't it, guys, with Ian Westlake?
Yeah, and as anyone who's listened to him on the I Follow co-commentary this year knows, he's a really good talker and really interesting, enthusiastic and charismatic guys. And so, yeah, well worth a listen there.
Exceptional. Speaks exceptionally well, doesn't he? Speaking about non-league and stuff, didn't he not come back and play for? Did he come back and play for Needham?
Yeah, who are in the FA Cup first
round.
Are in,
doesn't he? Tomorrow, imagine that one. Drawn away at Bloomfield. Christ, there'd be a rush for tickets for that one.
Yeah, I'm in Hamburg that weekend, so I'm hoping just for a exciting draw that I can just miss. Draw. Yeah, but so I missed that.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Christ, even getting into the first round proper is money, isn't it? It's cash.
What an achievement.
Huge money. And they had a really good run in the FA Trophy last year. They got right through to the quarters or the semis.
Incredible.
So things going well down there, obviously.
Yeah, perfect.
Literally, I remember 25 years ago, they were still playing on a park. Maybe 30 years ago, still playing on Crowley Park. Literally putting the nets up. It's incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. Hopefully, fingers crossed, unlike Joe, let's hope they get a decent...
I hope Needham get a good draw and Ipswich get a boring draw that we can win.
Yeah. Barrow away or something like that. Yeah, nice, easy one.
Q Plymouth away.
Yeah. Right, a few questions coming in. A lot of them are along similar lines, but we'll get across as many as we can. There's a couple from the Telegram group. Dan from the Telegram group asked, and also Graham in the chat here was asking about Kamara, who on the back of the news that he's returning to training returned to training this week. How do we use Panucci Kamara once he's fully fit? And will we see him potentially Tuesday night, Joe?
Well, Tuesday night I think could be an interesting one because I was sort of passing the training ground on Saturday morning. There was an under-21s training session, which I think is not a usual training session. I think they've been pulled in for an extra training session on the Saturday. They were due to have a game against Millwall tomorrow, which has been cancelled. So I wonder whether the game against Cambridge, with us basically already qualified bar an absolute nightmare and a 8-0 tonking or whatever, whether we are just going to go really young for that. Because bearing in mind, we played Saturday, we've got Derby on Friday, we've got Port Vale on Tuesday, then we're game straight the following Saturday from there. So it's just, you've got sort of a really busy month, and we've done the hard work in the group now. So do we now just utilise the fact that we've done well in our first 2 games and just play the kids out there? And maybe a Kamara goes and gets 45 minutes, and it is treated as a reserve game where the first team manager says, I want him to get 45 minutes, I want him to get an hour, and go from there. And I think that's where we're going to go. And I hope it is. I like to see games like that. I think that's what the Papa John's Trophy is for. And like I say, we've earned the right to do that in the next game.
Yeah. Dave, in terms of strikers now, Jack in the Telegram was asking, do we need to pick a striker and give them a run of starts? And similarly, Dave was asking, will we have a match soon this year, this season, where the central striker starts and finishes the same match?
I think probably no, because of the strength and depth. I think that'd probably be a big surprise if that happened.
But do we need a striker? Does a striker need to start playing, home and away? Because basically,
yeah, I think so. I think so. It's a tough one, because the Dabo does give you a degree of physicality, and as West in Westlake has said, and other commentators have said, that it's a bit of our number 9 role is a bit of a thankless role, isn't it? Because they're not going to get bundles of chances. They're just not. It's just the style we play. But they need to be. It's a difficult one. I think Ladapo physicality is probably a better bet than for instance John Jules. However, John Jules, I think Westlake said himself in the interview, was probably, as he said, one of the technically best players at the club, but young and fairly inexperienced. Yeah, it's a tricky one there. I really don't really know the answer, but I'd be surprised right through the season, given the strength of depth we've got, especially when Ahadmi comes back and is fit, up till January, whether a striker does play the full 90 minutes.
I think we looked at the market this summer when we signed Freddie Ladapo early on in the window. I don't think many Ipswich fans expected him to be our only senior striker come the end of the window, or sort of senior number 9 striker. So there was obviously a big push to sign George Hurst. Sounded like, again, when Phil mentioned on here on transfer deadline day, there's a big push to sign Will Keane right at the end of transfer deadline day. And we sort of ended up with Ghassan Ahadmi, which he's just not in the same league as those two. He's a project. He's a player that's looked good. He's done well against us. But I think that we'll be going back into the market in January for a striker. I think we are short there. I think the problem we may have is a little bit that I don't think there's between Ladapo and John Jules. I don't think either of them is far enough ahead of the other one to be the one that starts every week. That they both have different strengths. They're both doing generally fine, but neither of them are saying, there's no way you can drop me for the next game because I'm going to play so well today that you're going to start me, and you're going to start me the game after that, and start me the game after that. And they might argue it's because they're not getting a run in the team. I think John Jules could probably argue that more than Ladapo because he started a lot less games. But I don't know. I think maybe you do just need to hitch your wagon to one of them. But again, we just mentioned you got sort of 4 games in the next week, so you are going to need to rotate.
Where do you go for a striker? Do we look abroad somewhere? Perhaps that's the answer.
So I haven't done any research into this at all, but I guess you're looking at somebody who's in a decent bit of form this year at a good club, who's playing well, who is maybe their contract's up at the end of the season, and you can sort of say,
"Look, we'll say Connor Wickham in a second, Dave."
I was going with that. I was going with that.
But someone where you can sort of say, "Look, we'll give you 300 grand and buy him out of his contract," and the clubs at this level can't afford to say no to that. But Connor Wickham, that is a player who's scoring goals at Forest Green, isn't he? And if he can be anything like the player he's been in the past, and he's actually playing games, he looks like the sort of player that'd be perfect in a McKenna system: big, strong, quick, good on the ball, scores goals when he can play. But I say he's only on a short-term deal at Forest Green, and I say if he carries on and scores another 5-6 goals before January, he's going to be getting he's not going to be staying there for the rest of the season, is he? On a pay-as-you-play, tuck-me-hate-me deal, he's going to be back earning proper money.
Yeah. Question from Michael. Well, more of a statement. Maybe time for Chaplin and Harness not to start together. Both their first touch is very loose. It's just, as you say, Joe, it's more a case that they're sort of off the cuff type players. They don't hold on to the ball. Their first instinct is to get it and go, get it and move it, sort of thing. And they're, by definition, doesn't always come off. So you're sort of losing possession further up the pitch, I suppose, aren't you?
And this is where when Aluko was injured, this was what we said, wasn't it, at the time, that you're going to miss a player like that.
Yeah. One from Mallet. Is our passing game causing us issues? Should we run at teams more, given the success of Edwards and the way Harness won that first free kick?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It'd be a little bit more direct. I mean, it's not direct. You're not pinging passes forward, but get the ball in those advanced areas as Edwards do. What I like about Edwards, I've said before, Edwards can go either way, can't he? He can drop his shoulder, go right, he can go left. Obviously, I think he's much more effective coming off the left. But and it was good to see. That was a really good move. That when Harness skipped a couple of challenges there. That was the Evans free kick, I think. yeah, bit unlucky really not to finish that off.
Yeah. Just a quick one here from JG saying that he'd heard that we're after
Really?
Stansfield and would revisit in Jan to take over the Exeter loan.
I think what it was, Stansfield, is that we were signing him, and then we thought maybe he's a bit inexperienced, so we then changed tact and went for John Jules instead because he had a bit more experience, and it was sort of one or the other on those. So I think I'd be surprised if I know he's having a decent start to his time at Exeter, but I'd be surprised if you went in for someone of that profile.
Yeah.
Nice story, that, isn't it? Exeter.
Yeah. Amazing story, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Yeah. As Julian just says here, the Westlake interview is a great listen. As Jules is, you can always rely on Jules just to drag it back to the 80s. Fantastic. Good 80s references. The Duncan Goodhue of Ipswich Town. There you go. That's something to...
David Wilkie. I'll throw that one in.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say Rolf Harris. Do you remember the Rolf Harris advert where he was in the swim? He was trying to get kids to swim, and he was like
there was loads of those. Learn to swim. Yeah.
Waved his toes at the camera.
His toes. Yeah. Yeah.
I hope he wasn't in the changing rooms afterwards.
Whatever happened to Rolf Harris?
Rolf on Saturday. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So in terms of sort of just scooting past Cambridge, we've spoken about what we expect to see Cambridge-wise in terms of the team. What about Derby moving ahead? Obviously, Rich and Seb will go into what their thoughts are, and obviously the opposition more so on Thursday evening. But in light of yesterday, how do you think things will change for Friday night?
Maybe Edwards will get a start. I mean, just going through the team yesterday, you wouldn't leave Danassian out on sort of one poor game. I think perhaps he's had a couple of fairly average games by his standards recently, but I don't think you'd leave him out just for one poor game. I know he got knocked, didn't he? He got a little bit of treatment, but pretty much saw the game out as much as he did right up to 80 minutes after that. I think maybe Edwards for potentially Harness, maybe. But Burns is an interesting...
John Jules maybe.
John Jules for Ladapo. Yeah. I think he'll probably stick with Burns, and if a fit, stick with Burns and Danassian. I would have thought.
Yeah. Well, it's just. Well, yeah. If you say that, it's just it's going to be the same section of the team which gets moved around because you're not, Morsey and Evans isn't going to change. Evans did fine yesterday. Actually, I think him and Wolfenden and Edmondson.
Wolfenden was good yesterday. Wolfenden was really good yesterday.
At one point, he was almost just in defence on his own, wasn't he? And he was really because Danassian was struggling. He was really covering for him a lot. Edmondson was just going forward and overlapping, and Wolfenden was just like a one-man defence, just picking up. He was a class act.
Oh, he's absolutely superb yesterday. Yeah.
There was a moment in the first half. I can't think who he was defending against, but it was just a touch. He was coming out the sky, and he just took a touch and just. One or two strides away from the attacker, and he just sort of strode out of defence.
Confident boy. Yeah, very good to see.
Yeah, he's playing well. And just while we get towards the top of the hour, we'll knock on it relatively shortly. Tony's asking a question about the BM Live show. Tickets still available, 12th of November after the Cheltenham game. Is there any dress code as it's in the Sir Bobby Robson suite? Well, good point, actually, Tony. I think it's black tie.
Black tie and ball gowns.
I think it might be. I think Craig, you're going to be on the door, aren't you? So you just can't come in wearing that. You can't come in wearing. It's not trainers. Trainers. Get out.
So no, you won't be able to wear your tattered jeans, Tony. I don't think, or any swimwear or leisure wear, whatever they call it. So no, I think you're pretty safe.
I think you're probably
right.
No,
it's not a corporate event.
No,
is it? It's
just fine.
We've hired the venue, so it's our rules.
Yeah.
We'll be liberally sprinkling sawdust on the floor as you walk in to make everyone feel at home. Quick one from Adi. Let's poke that hornet's nest, shall we? Will you be able to talk about the Derby game without mentioning the black shirt? Not the black shirts, but the black shirt. So either you two guys have got any particular gripes about it?
Couldn't give a monkey's props.
I'm not a fan of it personally. I'm not. It's not like a massive issue that I'm really upset by, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't even like when we have blue shorts. I like blue shirt, white shorts, blue socks, and it just seems, I don't know, we've already sold this shirt out twice. What more commercial benefit? It's not on our home shirt. It's got Ed Sheeran tour written all over the front of it, so it's not like we're giving him extra marketing by wearing it in that game. I'd have liked to have worn it at somewhere like MK Dons, where we're taking 10,000 fans there, or even away at Exeter. But I think one of the biggest things that's going to annoy me is that it sounds like Derby are going to be playing in a maroon kit, and you're going to have black against maroon on a Friday night, isn't it? Yeah, when it should be blue against white.
Yeah, that's going to be odd. Wow.
Yeah, they really need to. And like I said, I'm not colourblind, but a lot of people are. So like 1 in 10 men are colourblind, and I struggle watching that Plymouth Ipswich game at times. It was a real tough watch, especially when the sun was bright. And this one under the floodlights, if you've got two dark colours again, it's really not a good product for people. And more, they've made a point about colourblind people, and next year they're going to be kicking in. But I think we should really be making an effort to make the game more inclusive.
As you said though, Craig, it's not as if they need to advertise it anymore, is it? It's like hotcakes, that, isn't it?
Mm. Well, if the colourblind people are going to struggle, hopefully Matt Holland's not on co-coms, as he's famously crusty. God knows what I think of your shirt, Joe. I think you're just wearing some sort of grey thing. Hell, Maritima got a boring old shirt, and they just plain grey.
Who designed that?
Yeah,
oh, dear.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we've pretty much hit our hour on the head, and we'll get told off if we go on any further. So, just leaves me to say thank you to Joe, and thank you to Dave. Thank you, gents. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
And more importantly, and finally, thanks to everyone who's joined us and who's joined in. We'll see you soon. Cheers.